Yo guys, welcome to Ashton Fitness. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to do the bent arm handstand press. The bent arm handstand press is a seriously impressive calisthenic skill that takes a lot of strength to achieve. It takes a lot of time and patience. It's a hard skill, I won't lie to you. However, I've got some really awesome tips in this video that will help you learn it as quickly and as efficiently as possible. They're all tips that I've personally used to learn the handstand press, so I know from experience that they really do work. If you enjoy the video, then make sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss any videos in the future. And if you really enjoy it, then make sure to share it on your favorite social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you want to choose, so that your friends can also enjoy it with you. Now without further ado, let's get to the tutorial. Let's get it. The bent arm handstand press is an advanced calisthenics movement that requires a lot of shoulder, core and upper back strength to achieve. In this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know to learn the bent arm handstand press, plus all the most essential progressions you need to build the strength and endurance for this impressive skill. To perform the bent arm handstand press, start by holding an L-sit. Next, tuck your knees up to your chest and draw them in between your arms using the strength from your core and shoulders. As your feet travel past your arms, lean forward and bend your arms to shift the majority of your weight onto your shoulders. Keep leaning forward until your arms form a 90-degree angle and hold your arms there while you lift your hips up above your head. Once your hips are pointing towards the ceiling, extend your legs and push up into a handstand to complete the movement. As the bent arm handstand press involves an L-sit and a handstand, I recommend that you first become very comfortable with these skills before attempting it. You should be able to hold an L-sit for at least 15 seconds and a handstand for at least 20 seconds before attempting the bent arm handstand press. Ideally, you should also be able to hold a handstand on parallettes or parallel bars for at least 15 seconds. As it's much easier to perform the bent arm handstand press on parallettes than on the floor, you'll want to get comfortable holding a handstand on parallettes first before you begin training for the bent arm handstand press. If you're comfortable holding an L-sit and a handstand on parallettes, then you're ready to start training for the bent arm handstand press. The first tip to unlocking the bent arm handstand press is to make sure that you have the correct hand positioning. When setting up for the bent arm handstand press, make sure that your hands are positioned just beyond shoulder width. If your hands are too close together, then it will make the bent arm handstand press harder because you'll put too much load on your shoulders. If your hands are just wider than shoulder width, then some of the load will be redirected to your lats and upper back, which will make holding the bent arm position and pushing up while you transition from the L-sit to the handstand easier. The second tip to mastering the handstand press is leaning forward as you transition from the L-sit to the handstand. A common mistake people make is that they lean backwards onto their elbows as they push through from the L-sit into the handstand. Don't do this, as it will make it much harder to push up into the handstand position. Instead, lean forward as you transition and make sure to keep leaning forward as you push up. This will give you much more control and stability as you push yourself into the handstand position, and it will make it much easier to perform the handstand press. The third and best tip for mastering the bent arm handstand press is to keep your arms at 90 degrees throughout the transition. The most common mistake people make when learning the bent arm handstand press is that they dip their shoulders below 90 degrees during the transition. Although this actually makes the transition easier, it makes the push-up portion of the movement afterwards 2 times harder. Avoid doing this and instead keep your arms at a 90-degree angle throughout the transition. This will make it much easier to push up into the handstand once your hips reach the vertical position. This is the tip that helped me the most with my own handstand press, and I learned it by watching other calisthenics athletes doing handstand presses. I noticed that they all kept their arms at a 90-degree angle as they transitioned from the L-sit to the handstand, so I incorporated this into my training and the results were phenomenal. If there's one tip to take away from this video, then it's this one. But the others are very important too, which brings me on to the fourth tip, which is to use parallettes or a raised surface to make the bent arm handstand press easier. Performing the bent arm handstand press on the floor is much harder than performing it on parallettes because it requires a lot more core and shoulder strength to pull off. Instead, try using parallettes or some other kind of raised surface to perform the bent arm handstand press. It makes the transition from the L-sit to the handstand easier as it gives your feet much more room to pass between your arms, so you don't have to use as much strength and energy to make the transition as you would on the floor. The last tip to mastering the bent arm handstand press is to be patient as you transition. It's very tempting to rush the transition between the L-sit and the handstand, but rushing it will make it harder to control your balance. Rushing may also generate excess momentum, which can cause your shoulders to dip below the 90-degree line and make the handstand press harder. Don't rush, and instead take your time as you transition. Focus on leaning forward, keeping your arms at a 90-degree angle, and creating a stable base for you to push up from once your hips reach the vertical position. Boom. Bonus tip! Another tip for learning the bent arm handstand press as quickly as possible is to practice it when you're fresh. As it's a very demanding movement, it would be impossible to train it properly after a full training session. Therefore, train it before your training session starts so that you can attempt it with full strength. Whenever I'm learning a new skill, I always train it before my main session starts so that I can give it everything I've got. I've found that this works incredibly well for learning new skills quickly, so I recommend that you try it too if you want to learn the bent arm handstand press as quickly as possible. Like most calisthenic skills, the bent arm handstand press won't come overnight, but here are some of the best progressions that will help you learn it much faster. Thank you for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, then make sure to share it on Facebook, Twitter, or wherever your favorite social media platform is. And of course, let me know which calisthenics skill you'd like to see a tutorial for next, and I'll do my best to make it for you. This has been Ashton with Ashton Fitness. Now go learn that bent arm handstand press.